Hi, this is Dr. Dan Ratner. Today I'm joined once again by Carrie with the third session of our mind-body consultation series where we sink into the power column. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and I'll get back to you personally. And finally, you can reserve your place in one of my seminars or purchase any of my mind-body guides, also known as the PDFs, at www.crushingdoubt.org. In addition, we have begun our group memberships, and you can sign up for them on the website as well. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Carrie on the power column. Carrie, I want to welcome you back. This is kind of a special one because we did 2 sessions, but we've done a seminar in between, and now you've actually joined the membership group as well. So there's a whole different dynamic potentially going on now than there was when I last spoke to you. I felt very good about the sessions we were doing already, and we were getting lots of information, but I just wondered if you could just give an update about how you're feeling about things right now as we're about to dive into the power column today.
Yeah, I definitely can. So I feel like I really have narrowed down and really have like my emotions column down pat. And I feel like I also have pretty much, I'd say most days, like 100% of the doubt is not there anymore. And now I'm just really honing in on the last step, which is this power column issue. And I made a lot of notes and I have a lot to share. So hopefully it's going to be different than other sessions that you've recorded too, because I feel like I have just a ton more done in advance.
Right. And this could show what it's like when you already have the seminar built in. I really have been blown away by how having that centralized information all organized already makes it so that, here we are, we're coming to the power column. When I tell you we're getting to the power column, you already know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. You know where we're headed. So now let's show everybody as we go through this what that looks like. So yeah. Just a brief reminder, the power column really, there are 2 elements to the power column that we're going to be working on. One is to build out this core narrative, get it really honed and more set, so that you can start living your life checking, am I living according to my core narrative or not? Mm-hmm. And whenever you're out of alignment with the core narrative, we've got to make decisions that move you back in that direction. And the other is to assess if you are in power with yourself, with others, and your symptoms, and make adjustments. Mm-hmm. So we'll spend some time on both today. But you've got lots of notes. So how about if I, for now, and this is one of the great things about working with you, you make these notes. We know you're a perfectionist, which I love, but we can help you hone that down. So tell me what you're thinking with the notes you have so far.
So I wrote down just like a lot of the themes, like from the emotional column, like you said, like take the emotional column and like try to condense it. So I have like a few like themes poking out, and then I took a good stab at the core narrative too, and I did a little bit with your assistance too during the seminars. So right. It's not like I've done this work all on my own, and I've had your guidance. So I have that too today. So I don't know where you would want to go with.
Let's just go. Where
you want to go.
The first place I go to is the core narrative with the power column. Mm-hmm. Because it really does guide a lot of things. So, it's supposed to be 3 sentences, but they can be run-on sentences. Sometimes sentence 1 can really be 2 sentences. It all depends on what's going to make sense to you. There's no hard and fast rule. The 3 sentences is just designed to keep you from writing an essay that then you can't feel like you can hold on to as much. And I saw your page, so I know there is some of that. Yeah. Take a stab at what you've said that would constitute sentence 1. Now, just a reminder of what that is. I think you already know, but it is the essence of your suffering self. The core narrative is not describing you as a full person across the board in every way. It's describing what's the centrality of your suffering. Mm-hmm. So let's hear what you got so far.
Yeah, and I just want to say, like, this has also been a little bit influenced by you too, because I did share with you my first sentence, and then you reworded it a little bit to have
right. And you know what? If you don't mind, Carrie, let's note what it was that we did there, because it'll really illustrate things pretty well.
Oh shoot! Just hold on. Okay.
Just read it. Just read it, because I'll actually remember. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. I had it originally. I came from a family where no one understood or knew how to help me thrive. And you changed it to my family failed me by not understanding or helping me to thrive. And then
Right.
I added a little bit extra, um, the extra that I added after going over it again today, and left me to figure out the world all on my own. Is what I
Wow.
added.
I just want to say, I mean, I don't know how that feels to you when you read that sentence. It's a very powerful sentence. And
Mm-hmm.
this is something I said to you in the seminar at the time, but I said to other people in different ways too. Your core narrative really, it should either make you angry or it should make you cry.
Right.
It's just a very, it doesn't have to be either one, but what my point is, it should really awaken your feeling about you.
Mm-hmm.
It felt to me like in what you just said, that feeling is really there. Does that feel accurate to you though?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty close to tears. And when I did do it in like the seminar, even when I had it the less powerful way, I was like crying just a ton. So
Right.
I know it's right. It sucks, right? You
It
don't
does.
want to have that happen to yourself or even your children or
Mm-hmm.
any child. So yeah, I mean, it sucks when it's like, oh God, that's what I'm dealing with. Like,
Right. Right.
it's
To
heavy.
recognize that. I mean, and so in the power column, one of the key action steps is accepting the fullness of your trauma.
Mm-hmm.
What we did there, because we changed that first sentence away. What I noted in the seminar is you were. I say this with admiration, but also wanting to protect you a little bit. You had a tendency to be, I think, almost overly forgiving of the other people and say, "Oh, this kind of accidentally happened." And I said, "Hey, we need to get a little more in your corner."
Yeah, and definitely because I realized through this process, like that my family went through a ton of trauma. And so it's just like, I think I quickly came to like re- try to not protect, but to understand and didn't like
Right.
go into what it did to me. And it's just like, oh, like poor them. Like that was really hard for them because they had so much more trauma than me. And I actually was raised that way. Like we had so much more trauma than you. Like your life is good. You're not being beat. You're not, like you're not being put down, like all this stuff. But yet they really didn't know how to parent, which is what led to what
Right.
happened with me.
And I do want to say those things are not mutually exclusive. You can have empathy for your parents and what they went through. But in the power column, it's irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
That belongs somewhere else. The
Yeah.
power column is just for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what you were able to connect to as we did the seminar and as we've done this work. And I'm really pleased about that because you deserve that empathy. Just you. It doesn't have to be through the lens of, okay, you get empathy, but you had it better in certain ways,
Mm-hmm.
which, maybe you did have it better in certain ways. You also might have had it worse in certain ways. It's irrelevant. What matters is how did you suffer
Mm-hmm.
in a way that doesn't put it on you, because you were just a kid.
Right.
So okay, so it sounds like you feel pretty good about that first sentence, though.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so let's go to the second sentence. The second sentence is, how did that first sentence and the reality of that first sentence impact you?
um, this is where it's more like a paragraph.
Well, that's okay, because read me the notes and then we can
Okay.
condense it.
Yeah, I needed to look to other people outside myself and see if I was okay and for ways to thrive rather than survive. My ability to thrive was dependent on what others thought of my efforts and held the power of if I was to move from survival to thriving. When I figured out how to thrive, at times it wasn't good enough, or it brought on other issues of jealousy or anger to be directed at me to bring me back to a sense of powerlessness and hopelessness. It also made me doubt myself whether I could or should take on the cost of moving from survival to thriving.
Intense, really good stuff. So now I'm gonna reflect back to you what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
This is part of the work that we do in the seminar. It's part of the work that we will do in the membership group as we continue to go with things, and it's part of the work that we do in these sessions. So I want you, though, as I say it back, I want you to be very thoughtful about whether what I'm saying does accurately represent, because I won't get it entirely right in all likelihood. I might, but you're the one who will know. I could be missing a word. I could have left out a part of what you said. I could be misrepresenting it in some way. I'm not meaning to, of course, but this is part of the way that the system works is I get a sense of the overall problem from the structure that I give you in the first place. Then I hear it. I give you back a kind of lump of clay that I see it as this way. And then you help me shape it, which is exactly what we did with sentence 1. So what I'm hearing is that because of sentence 1, because of that experience, you were left feeling that your worth was determined by the view of other people. That's how I would condense maybe those first 2 sentences in some way. Does it capture it?
Yeah.
And if not, what am I missing?
Yeah, I think it does. I just like, it doesn't have like the same impact for me, like the more words like has more impact.
I know, but that's important. So now we build more words back in.
Okay.
So I said, and let's make it really kind of emotionally punchy. That's what it's supposed to be. So I would say, because of this, I didn't know my own worth. And I looked, and I would maybe put in a word like desperately, because that captured the emotion of it. I looked desperately for validation, recognition, and acceptance exclusively from other people. I don't, maybe now I'm overstepping it. I don't know. But how did that feel?
Yeah, definitely like the exclusively from other people is like probably the most like right on.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Do you feel that you sacrificed yourself in a certain way?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
Okay. So I want you to put that in there. But I want to be careful about this, because I want us to phrase it in a way that doesn't blame you for it.
Yeah.
So I would actually phrase it as, I was given the message to sacrifice myself. And followed that. And that's so, it hurts.
Right. It was either like, it was almost not totally to sacrifice myself. It was more like to be perfect. Like, if there's any sort of imperfection, like nobody was gonna come and rescue you. Nobody was gonna help you out of that. Like, nobody was going to want you as a part of their tribe almost. Like, it was like, don't even make like one little mistake, because
wow. Okay, so now we're going to change it, because sacrifice yourself, that was kind of the lump of clay I gave you, and you were like, it's almost there, but not quite.
Yeah.
It's more about, if I'm hearing correctly, it is more about the fact that because you were seeking that approval from other people exclusively, you felt genuinely that you had to be perfect or you would be rejected.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel that? Like, does it click when I say it, or not?
Yeah, I get really like nervous about when anytime like I make like a mistake, or like not 100% truthful, or like leave out some detail, and then later it comes back to me like that I shouldn't have done that. Like, I get really like, ooh.
Okay, so let me ask a question about that. Does that feel, would that be well represented by the idea of feeling emotionally unsafe?
Yeah, I would say.
It feels right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's back up. The beginning of the sentence is something along the lines of, because of that first sentence, you were always looking exclusively towards the validation that could come from other people for your sense of actual worth. Then we move on to the part where we say, and in addition, you were left in a position of feeling the need to be perfect or facing pretty damning rejection.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Then we might want to add in something about safety, but only if it really clicks, only if it feels like, yeah, that's it. Because here's the thing about constructing the core narrative. If we've already got that idea in, if that feeling's already there from what we've said, we don't need those words. You wanna find the words that access your heart on it.
Yep.
If it's just words, it doesn't do you any good. It's supposed to feel like, yep, this, like when you read this statement, I want you to feel like, wow, that is me. And we might polish it over a span of weeks, by the way. This is the beginning of it. Or we may get it down so it's just like exactly what you want it to be right here. So do you think we need to add in unsafe, or is that already captured by what we said?
I mean, to me, like the first sentence, are we looking for just safety in the second sentence too? Because
No.
I feel like the first sentence does have it when it's like, you're a kid and you're trying to figure out the world all on your own. Like that feels pretty unsafe. Like
yeah, I think that maybe that does capture it enough.
I better get it right as a kid.
So it's already in there. As long as it feels like it's captured in one of these sentences, you've got it.
Yeah.
Okay, what else do we need to get into this second sentence? You did mention a couple other things, but it was a long one, so I got to...
Oh, yeah. So, like, I think what we haven't captured yet is, like, there was a consequence, too. Even if I made it, like, past what my family was struggling with, like, that was, like, met with,
apathy or
it was almost
lack
like
of recognition?
Almost like you're bringing on problems because you're bringing on problems that we can't help you with. So
okay,
kind of stay in your own. You have to have problems that we know how to help you with, and when you move on to these other accomplishments or things that you're doing, like we don't know how to help you, and now we're mad because we don't know how to help you.
Right. Okay.
There's a weird dynamic, but
we're getting close. We're getting close to representing what this is. I don't totally know it yet, but I'm going to say back to you what I'm understanding and see if we get it. Now, first of all, remember where we are in this core narrative. We're in that second sentence. We said the stuff about you feeling like you had to get approval from the other people. We said the thing about perfectionism. But what you're saying now, if I'm understanding it correctly, is that in that striving for perfection, it added to your feeling of alienation from your family, and even worse, they blamed you for it.
Yeah, and I actually faced it too at workplaces too, because I was too ambitious. Like I was actually told, like, you're too ambitious, like we don't know like what to do because you have ambitious goals. Like we don't have ambitious goals, like don't do that.
And did you feel blamed for it then?
I just felt like
or there was no place for your ambition?
It was frustrating because I'm like, why don't you have ambition? Right. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get why you're not ambitious. Like, you worked here for 20, 30 years. Like, if you're not ambitious, like, move on. Like, I just didn't understand.
Okay, so I'm going to try this again. Something like this, after the perfectionism part, you could say, and this drive for perfectionism added to my sense of alienation, to my confusion about other people not having ambition.
Yeah.
And to a deep frustration in not being able to enact these dreams.
Right.
Does that feel right to you?
Yeah. It's definitely like an underlying current that I generally have with situations. Once I get past like the basics and know kind of the basics, and like I'm always like, let's do a little bit, let's reach a little bit more, and it's generally like, no, like that's scary, and I'm like, it's not scary, let's just go. And so then and then I'm mad because like the one that's doing these things was the one that had to like step out and be like, I'm too sick to push you guys forward anymore because
Right,
I had big ideas.
and I do want to say this, but you have to tell me if this is right. It sounds like you were then left to feel like the world was reflecting back to you that something was wrong with you, that you wanted these things.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like people have said, well, this is kind of what you get for being so ambitious. Like people have said that to me. Like, no wonder you are sick, because most people don't strive to do all those things. And I'm like,
yeah, I had a therapist once tell me, the horrible therapist that I had. He once told me, some people just don't need it. They don't need as much, or they don't want as much.
Mm-hmm, yep.
That is a wickedly evil thing to say to somebody, because it's blaming them for a very natural thing that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You got blamed for that.
Yeah. People are like, you kind of, you were heading towards burnout long time ago. Like, of course this would happen. Right. I think it's more like a protection thing, because they're scared, they're scared that this might happen to them too.
Right. Now let me ask you this. Did we capture all the ideas we need to in that second sentence?
I think so. I didn't write it down because I was too busy.
But that's okay, because you can go back and watch this, right?
Right.
And we can string it together. But I'm gonna try to say it to you anyway. I hope I don't miss anything. But if I'm recalling it correctly, it's something like, because of what happened in sentence 1, I was left in a world where my entire sense of worth was dependent on the validation and recognition of other people. And that led me to seek perfection so that I could avoid very painful rejection. And then that perfection was met with a rejection of its own, in being interpreted as overambitious, or having some kind of problem, or just making things too complicated, or some junk like that. That's sentence 2.
Yeah. Definitely making things too complicated.
You're not.
Has been feedback.
Well, you're not. And actually,
I know. I know I'm not. And I'm like, but yeah, I don't feel like I have a leg to stand on anymore, because I feel like that's part of what got me to the symptom state, because I've been told that over and over, I guess.
Okay. Well, listen, the best thing I can do for you is to be very, very blunt and forceful against that, and to say that's complete bullshit. What has happened to you is that, and this is just what we did in sentence 1, we turned it around from that feeling of maybe it's my fault, and said, hey, you know what? Sometimes the world and the people in it have such struggles and inadequacies, and they try to lay that at your doorstep. It's not on you. In fact, we're finding the exact same thing with this system. I don't want to speak for you, but my sense from, well, I guess I will, and then you can tell me if I'm wrong. Sure. But my sense is that one of the reasons that you've liked this system is that it's ambitious.
Right, for sure.
It does try to describe the full scope of things.
Yeah.
It tries to say, you know what? There are things we can do in each and every situation. You can build an entire system underneath what I put there as your own system, and get full relief. Right.
And yeah, and like I've heard you say many times, like, this is like 2 years of therapy. And I'm like, great, because I don't really have time for 2 years of therapy. Like, I want to get on with my life. I want to be running. I don't want to have therapy for the rest of my life. Like, I don't.
Right.
I have better things to do with my time, and having better connections with people and that sort of thing. Like, I want to live my life. I don't want to be attached to therapy.
Absolutely. And I think therapy has had a downside for people where it almost, it's like people exult in taking it slowly. Oh, we can take our time with this. And I'm not saying that has no place, but there are some people who are like, I don't have time for that. I certainly felt that way myself. My father died when I was 6 weeks old. I had a sense of time urgency my entire life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I know people who have that, like you, right? So let's now dive back into this core narrative. What we have going so far is I think, a very, very good and powerful description of what happened to you and what its impact was.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going to get into sentence 3, which is where I wouldn't say this is where the 2 years of therapy gets condensed, but it's a big part of it.
Yeah.
In therapy, a lot of times we work to get things described well. Well, I would say sentences 1 and 2 have just described what has gone on for you. Your very central suffering better than many 2-year therapy experiences do. And now we're going to take it a step further and talk about, what are you going to do about this? Mm-hmm. How are you going to effect change in your life so that you make sure that what happened to you in the past and its impact on you largely never happens again? It is going to happen maybe in some isolated, repeated moments, a little bit, but overall, we want to have it not happen. I'll just give you an example so that we can then start to consider what does this sentence actually say. As an example, the idea that other people subjected you to the idea that these things might be your fault, we cannot have you live in that space anymore.
Right.
That has to be thoroughly rejected. And the only way to thoroughly reject it is if you yourself finally can commit to believing essentially what I'm going to say here, which is, there was never anything wrong with you. This isn't about there being something wrong with you. This is about your environment having issues and turning to you and blaming you for it.
Mm-hmm.
What I want for you in this power column, and somewhere this fits in the third sentence, is you are now going to live channeling your aggression towards the good things. Mm-hmm. To make sure that you never have to feel again that you might be lacking. Now, when I say this, by the way, I don't expect you just to automatically feel that. But this third sentence is very powerful in starting to move you in that direction. So I would say something like this. This is the lump of clay where I give it to you and then you help me, mold it. Mm-hmm. I would say that you are going to make a decision to never call your value into question ever again. And to meet anyone who calls it into question with the ability to completely disregard them as irrelevant. Mm-hmm. And I would just add this. The core narrative with sentence 3 often has the fiercely in your own corner kind of idea to it. I think it fits here. I think for you to get better from these symptoms, but also for you to live the kind of life that you want. Mm-hmm. How do I say this? We have to make sure that you love yourself well. Yeah. Ferociously.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what probably happened, because I was facing a lot of, I had a surgery for a running injury that I do feel like it was my fault. Like, I got a bunch of opinions and they were all over the board, and I followed the least conservative option, and then I ended up with a surgery, which scared me half to death because I'd never had a surgery. So I felt like I lost my power because I lost the love, or I was losing running for at least 6 weeks and up to a year and a half for that injury to heal even after surgery. So I lost that, and then I lost, and then at work we're going through some things, which it was kind of a mess, but there was just a lot of power dynamics going on. So that was going on. And then I needed a lot of help with the surgery because I couldn't really walk. I was basically kind of, it wasn't a cast, but it's called, what is it called? um, brace, it's called. So basically from my hip to my ankle. So I couldn't really move around, and I couldn't like shower at home because we didn't have a shower. So I was relying on a lot of different people, which is very uncomfortable for me because I was used to just going around doing everything and working really fast and like getting everything done in a very efficient way. So like I felt like I really, um, lost a lot of power. And then when I did need help, I didn't really feel like a lot of people came to help in ways that I needed them to help.
And these are, by the way, the ideas you just said, they could be things that we fold into sentence 2. Or
Oh,
maybe we build into sentence 3. And this happens. We'll build out a core narrative, and then you'll be like, oh, wait, I got to get this idea in there. As an example, running,
mm-hmm.
I think, in a way, has been a source of, I know it's been a source of joy for you,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the reasons I think it's been a source of joy for you is that you can achieve things and be ambitious without anybody else judging it. It's just you against you.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. Like I was
Okay.
in that category where people were kind of watching where I was placed
Okay,
and
fair
like,
enough.
yeah. Anyway, yeah,
Okay.
I had somebody say to me like, "Why didn't you place better?" And I was just like, it
Oh
really
my
like,
God. Okay, fair
it
enough.
took me a little bit.
I
But
stand
anyway,
corrected.
so yeah, I mean, it became, it was a very joyful thing. And then once I realized like people were watching me and what where and criticizing where I was placing, it became a bit more of a
Okay, so but that could be something
right.
that maybe that's the thing to add to that second sentence is that you found a lot of criticism, and you found that even when you did the uncomfortable and tried to lean on people,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't feel like they were there for you.
Yeah, yeah, and that's
I don't know if that's central enough to get in the core narrative. If it's not, then you just let it go, or you represent it in some other wording.
yeah. What I was trying to get at is that I wasn't really like doing the actions in sentence 3
Right,
and in that situation. So I think like that's
right,
actually I think what started it all for me. I don't think it was really an emotional, it was a lot of emotion about all those things, but it was like the lump of them, it wasn't just like
right.
something, because I didn't really have like just random symptoms like you say with the profile of emotional. I didn't have like headaches, that would come and go. I didn't have anything. And then it just like came in
Right.
one big lump.
Right, and I think this is that's a very power column like presentation
Mm-hmm.
where just all at once you feel like all the things that have felt wrong in your life, you run out of the ability to continue on the same path. I couldn't do it either.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I kind of get a little bit lost in like the third sentence, because I thought I kind of knew how to do the action steps, but obviously it didn't work. So I need to figure out different
Well,
action steps.
I mean, it could be that it did work partially,
Mm-hmm.
but where it didn't work is that you're not yet at peace with yourself.
Yeah, for
Not
sure.
quite. I mean, you've come
Yeah.
a long way, but you're not
I,
quite there.
yeah, I feel like I couldn't back up myself as much as I probably needed to.
Right. And, I just wanted to highlight this. If you were fully at peace with yourself, then when you talked about things like perfectionism or struggling with making mistakes or how people valued you, you would be more in your own corner fully, and you would that would feel like the past tense.
Mm,
We're not quite there yet, and that's
right,
something we'll work on.
right.
But we have to start to move you genuinely towards being so ferociously in your own corner that you can say, that really wasn't fair. It's not, even I'm not being fair to me to judge myself that way. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to do it anymore.
Right.
I'm a much less harsh critic of myself than I ever was before because of my own power column work than I am for 20 years of therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ultimately, we have to get you to be ferocious in your own empathy of
Yeah.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And sentences 1 and 2 are pretty important for that because you can feel it. You can feel what happened to you in a way that I think you weren't fully connected to before.
Right.
So as we spend time with sentences 1 and 2, sentence 3 becomes more and more clear. I mean, I've already said the words that I think really do apply, but it won't matter until they really mean it to you. Until you're like, oh, that's true. Like, I hadn't truly empathized with myself, truly, about much of anything until I was probably like 42 or something. You know, that's not that long ago.
I'm only a year older than that. So I just turned 43. Like, I mean, my birthday's like 2 days after yours. So
You're right on time. And really, it often is the case that people talk about midlife crises, but actually what it really is an opportunity to recognize, you know what? I have lived long enough to realize this is not changing. This has been the same way always. The one thing that can change, though, is your relationship with you.
Mm-hmm.
And this core narrative is going to be part of how you're going to do it. Now, I know we're not fully there yet. Even if we have it fully written, we're not fully there yet in terms of you living it yet.
Right.
And I know we may in the membership group or even in the action steps session that we're going to do next week, we might smooth this out even more. But I want you to think about the sentences we have so far, and think about it as this is a measuring stick that you're going to use against every moment that happens. So if you're in a situation and somebody's treating you a certain way, or you're feeling like you're after their approval, you might say to yourself, "Now wait a minute. That's going right into the buzzsaw of what I always experienced. Mm-hmm. If I'm fiercely in my own corner, I'm not looking for their approval at all anymore. I don't need to prove myself anymore."
Yeah.
Like, think about it this way. I mean, you're a perfectionist that works very hard and has strong ambition. Why do you need to judge whether you're good enough or not? Just go ahead and do what you do.
Yeah, I think, I feel like what actually gets me into trouble is like I've ran into this my whole life. I feel like from grade school to college to work, like I'll turn in something that I think is really good or is like meets the mark. And maybe I, like I spent a lot of time on it, but I feel like it's good. And then I get feedback like that it's not.
Okay. What would sentence 3 do with that moment? This is the challenge right here. And I know it's not.
The trust, like that was couldn't, like the other person is wrong.
That is something you need to consider. I mean, here's something that I do. I recognize that a lot of times there's going to be a lot of aggression from the outside. Mm-hmm. And in fact, Greg and I talk about this a lot, that the better you are, the more attacked you will get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You've been attacked a lot. It's not because you're bad. It's because you're good.
Right. Yeah.
Sentence 3 would be to recognize that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And to not go anywhere with it. I do it with my own theory. I have people who have their own doubts about their own situation, or they try to make me doubt, or they try to undercut me, and I have to remind myself, no. The person who helped me out of this pain the most, other than Sarno, because he gave me the basics, which was incredibly important, mm-hmm. The person who helped me out otherwise was me.
Right. Yeah.
So I cannot let doubters make me doubt. I'm open to perfecting this. I'm open to making it better and better and better over and over and over. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to doubt myself anymore.
Right. Right.
You're going to get there. You're not there yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been the trickiest part for me. It's like I feel like I come in, with a pretty good confidence, and then I take it. Like I do take, what other people have to say about that. Mm-hmm. Very personal. So that's where probably my work is.
Let's shift though to where you will do this work, and that is in assessing power and adjusting.
Right.
So let's take some examples. Are there ways that you are sometimes aware that you feel out of power with yourself in some way? Like, I mean, I can even see it in this session. There are times where if I say to you, okay, you're going to try on sentence number 3 and you're going to become powerful, I can see you being like, I don't know. Right?
I don't know how to do that. Yeah.
Right. Carrie, do you know why you do that? Like, why do you take yourself out of power right there? You don't have to know the answer, but I want us to explore that question. I think I actually have some idea about it. Do you want me to say?
Sure.
I think that you're very afraid of the aggression that you'll get if you are powerful.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, very much. Because I've been the lone wolf, right? Like I've been like the person that's constantly up against like this aggression, and sometimes it just gets to be too much. Like I think that's what happened is like I met my limit of the amount of aggression that I could metabolize and feel powerful over with where I was in life. Like before that, I feel like I could deal with it. And then all of a sudden I was met with a bunch of situations where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't.
I think that's exactly right. So now I'm going to give you how to adjust to that. Because we assessed your power there.
Uh-huh.
We noticed you were not in power. We thought about why and identified that. Now, this is a bit of an action step, so we're getting a little bit into the next session, but that's fine. My system is flexible.
It's because I've done the seminars.
It's because we've done the seminars. But
we have extra time.
Also, we're ambitious about this. We want to let it roam where it needs to go. So here's what you can do. I'll give you an example related to me. When I was a kid, I hated that there was so much aggression. I just wished people wouldn't fight so much. I just hated it. I still hate it.
Right.
But one of the things that I've done in my power column, I feel like I have to give New York a little bit of credit because I lived in New York and everyone was so aggressive and nasty there all the time.
Yeah, I couldn't live there because I know like it would trigger me.
Listen, it ate away at my soul. But I did take away one good part to it, which is, you know what? I don't need to get messed with all the time. And so I found a way to find a good place for aggression. And I think that's what we need to do for you to protect you from aggression. Is to feel like you know, and this is a sports analogy, but they say, the best defense is a good offense. We do need you to be able to punch back appropriately when you need to. Even agree. Just in the confines of your own mind. It doesn't have to get outside of your own mind at all, even.
Yeah.
It rarely does for me. But in my own mind, I often think, that person's just trying to tear me down. And then I think I'm going to dismiss them. I'm not going to listen to them. And then sometimes it even gets out into behavior if it needs to. So we're going to help you recognize that the adjustment that needs to be made is we need you to be so fiercely in your own corner, and that any fear you have of aggression coming at you is going to be it's going to be overruled by the link you have with yourself, so that you can then go channel aggression and continue on your merry way. Right. You don't have to stop being ambitious.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. And I actually live in like the opposite of New York. So I live in passive aggressive Minnesota. They even have shirts that say like passive aggressive. So it's like even a little bit worse because you kind of don't know. Because
listen,
people are very passive.
I'm a Midwesterner too. I live in Cleveland, and the people here are so nice. I love it. But when there's a problem, then what do we do? Everybody gets very nervous, right?
Right, exactly.
Well, I feel like I've cracked that code that I've been trying to crack my whole life. And the code is, I don't need to bring aggression most of the time, but I will bring it when it's needed.
Yeah.
That is a huge comfort to me. And in a way, think about it. In a way, that's me valuing myself. It's me saying, I may be nice, but you mess with me too much or you cross a line, and I'll put a boundary in place. I may
Right.
not be aggressive and nasty and horrible or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to put a boundary in place that honors me.
Right. And my boundaries have, sucked.
Hey,
To be honest.
the Midwest, not great for boundaries. A lot of
I know.
and I mean it kind
No.
of as a compliment. But
And if you have them, there's aggression. Like, it's it's a double-edged sword, just like I've been talking about.
But here's the thing: it does not have to actually be a double-edged sword. I have found a way now to put boundaries in place without it even being that aggressive. That's what we need. If we can master that worry that you have about aggression, you can then channel it in the right ways, not feel like you've stopped being the nice person that you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even have to change who you are.
Right.
But you can just do some things in such a way that puts people on notice. Okay, well, I can't maybe I shouldn't say that to her. Like you have a little bit of an offense that protects you.
Right.
But I think it's a key point that we just made here when
Mm-hmm.
we assessed power.
Mm-hmm.
Right here, even in the session, you were feeling a little nervous about getting powerful.
Right.
You won't be nervous anymore once you master this. I
Yeah.
used to be nervous about being powerful too. Now I feel as powerful as anyone, equal to anyone.
Yeah.
Most of the time. I have my moments, but
Yeah, I definitely think that's like the root of everything for me is, and I know it keeps my symptoms going because of I mean, I have just really struggled with how to like dig myself out and feel powerful at the same time. And so
Yeah.
then I just like fall back into the symptoms take over for me so that I don't
Right.
have to think about it.
Right. So one of the things that we will do in the next session, but also in our membership meetings, I'm going to go through the moments with you. You know, that's the whole point of the membership is to take that moment to moment experience and actually sift through it and be like, wait,
Right.
hold on. Did you see what just happened there? We will be able to actually notice moments where you feel powerful or moments where you don't. And when you don't, we'll also be able to notice, you were still inhibiting yourself from being powerful in some way.
Mm-hmm.
A huge part of my job is to signal to you that at least in certain groups or with certain people, you are allowed to be exactly who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that some of us, myself included, want you to be powerful.
Right.
I genuinely do.
Mm-hmm.
And I 100% believe you're going to be. I know you're nervous about it, right? But think about the core narrative and how this applies here. When we think about the core narrative, we know why you would be nervous about this.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's exactly what we just talked about, is because I was basically put back into place, like,
right,
or like given no further, like I reached a point where I needed assistance or I needed guidance, and then it was met with like, we can't do that for you. So if you
right.
can't figure it out, like, too bad, so sad, like, quit doing that. And I feel like, I know we talked about it a little bit in the seminars, but I feel like when that saying that's going around, like, nobody's can save you or nobody's here to save you, like, that's, with the symptoms, when you go like from doctor to doctor and you're like, hey, like, I never went to the doctor. I mean, I went in like for my yearly physicals or whatever. And then when I finally went into the doctor for this, it was like, here's a medication, come back in 6 weeks, like, go see a therapist, like, good luck.
Right.
And it's like nobody's here to help me. Like, the people that I saw actually meant really well, but
okay, but meaning well is different than delivering.
Yeah, true. The medical
so,
system is not set up to deliver.
No, largely it isn't, at least not now. I mean, I think this is one of the reasons I'm doing the work that I'm doing, is to change so many different things, including that. We have a lot of work to do, but we'll keep at it. But you remember what I said in the seminar about that.
Yeah, I thought that was powerful, and I felt like that sets you apart from a lot of other people in therapy or even like the TMS world.
Yeah, so I'm just going to share what I did say,
I want
so this makes sense to everybody who's listening. What I said is there is a message that is sent. There's like an overvaluing of self-reliance where people say, oh, no one's coming to save you. And even therapists say that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's actually abhorrent. If your house is burning down, the fire department is coming to save you.
Right.
And if you are hurting, people who love you should come to try to save you.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely should.
Mm-hmm.
And even in this program, I can't do the work for people. That's true. But I can do it with them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the important part, because I feel like that's where a lot of us ran out. Like, we knew that we had power, but then we ran into a point where we didn't know how to elevate ourselves out. And then it's back to my core narrative. Like, I went around looking for people to kind of diagnose it, or diagnose like what I needed to do with my belief system. And it was just like a runaround.
Right. And where we're going to do this differently is I am going to keep reflecting back to you that I actually believe you are hugely powerful in ways you don't even yet know, because you have been trained from your earliest days to not be powerful. We're going to have you rebel.
Right.
And go ahead and be powerful. And I'm going to help you figure out how to do that. And channeling aggression is a big part of it. So we got to wrap up for today, but we're going to keep at this.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about this in action steps, because this could be a very key part of your action steps is, well, what are we going to do in the power column? Because you feel like you've got those other two columns even a bit more mastered, I'd say.
Yeah.
We'll focus on what do you need. And then, of course, we'll continue it in the membership groups. But you're ambitious and I'm ambitious. We can do this. And I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
All right, Carrie, this was a pleasure. And we'll pick up next week. And we'll finish up this consultation, and then we will just keep right on rolling with our work.
Right.
All right, Carrie, it's been a pleasure. This was a particularly fun one in a lot of ways, because Carrie and I met for the first two sessions, as you guys may have seen if you've been watching all the way through. Then we did the seminars in between. So we took some time off, did the seminars in between, and now she started my group monthly memberships. And what it's showing is how the work continues, and I can help with not even doing that much. You can see Carrie taking it on. You can see her knowing what her columns are all about. And it's that work that happens in the seminars and then afterwards in the monthly group memberships that allows people to really take this work and run with it. And the whole idea is I give you a system, and it is a system that works, but you're going to need to find a way that it works for you. One of the primary things that we found in the power column here with Carrie is that she's really got the ideas down. She understands herself well, but there's going to be this challenge of letting herself be powerful. We saw that moment towards the end where that was a little bit harder for her, and that's the work we're going to do, and I'm so looking forward to that. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and we'll get back to you personally.